When you say the words irrational loyalty, it makes me think about, just what's happened in this country through this presidential election. I think we've learned so much, and not that I want to flip anything towards politics, but you do mention in your book how the world has changed world of branding and marketing has changed forever because of Donald Trump when he became president of the U.S. So tell us a little bit about what you mean by that.
And this is not a political statement.
Right,
You've got that exactly right. Donald Trump gave us a masterclass in emotional branding. He did. And over the course of that 2016 election, we really saw that in his political campaign, where he went straight for people's hearts. And he went in and he gripped people in the heart where they hurt the most. And he made an emotional connection with them. He never talked about the product, right? He never talked about the functional benefits. He didn't have a detailed, lined out functional plan and platform, which would be the equivalent of the features and benefits of a product. He really grabbed people emotionally. And as a result, we all turned our heads and we paid attention, whether you like him or not. And then he continued to do that over the course of his presidency. And we're still feeling the effects of it. So I always go back to the first place where we really saw this be apparent during his presidency. And this was truly the turning point for brands. And that was the March on Charlottesville. And that was a very, very significant time in the world of politics and also in the world of social justice and in the world of branding. And so what happened then was we saw with his response and his words and what he said about what happened in Charlottesville and the people who were involved, we saw brands that the leaders of major companies like Boeing and FedEx and a number of different companies who were part of his presidential councils, we saw them either move closer to him to say that they supported him and that they recognized his sentiment and they acknowledged him, or they split further apart. And we started to see this division where these brands were really concerned with either the guilt that they might experience by association or the bonds that they might experience by association. And if you remember, those presidential councils completely blew up, right? The other thing that happened that was really interesting, and I cover this in Irrational Loyalty, and it's kind of an interesting story. If you remember, those people who marched in Charlottesville, they were called Tiki Torch Nazis. They were called Tiki Torch Nazis. And the poor Tiki company, small company in Wisconsin, maybe 120 to 150 people, family-run business. When I think about Tiki Torches, I think about great memories from childhood. I think about luau's. I think about backyard parties. And unfairly, this little brand that didn't want to take part in any of this got thrust right into the center of the controversy, right? Hashtag Tiki Torch Nazis all over the internet. It went viral. And the way the Tiki company responded is exactly the way that brands need to respond in crisis. And so this is an example of one of those crises that happened. It was not their fault at all. I know that they didn't want to be associated with what was going on in Charlottesville. But one of the things that they did was they moved very, very quickly and made very public statements to say that they acknowledged humanity and all of the harm that was done to the humans that were involved in this. They said, we are not part of this. We don't support this at all. We stand for social justice, but more importantly, what our brand stands for is for bringing people together and celebrating with backyard summertime fun. That's what we've always stood for, and that's what we want to bring to the world. And so this was a really good example of how brands can show up with a set of values and beliefs, even in the face of turbulence, even in the face of a brand crisis that was not created by their own hand, and use that opportunity to show what they stand for. So it's not enough today that if you are going to show up with purpose, it's not enough today to just be against something. You have to be for something. And this was one of the very early examples that came out of the Trump presidency that sort of has guided what a lot of brands have been able to do. And the most recent example of this that I see is the Super Bowl is coming up in about a week, right? And some of the mainstay advertisers from the Super Bowl that we always expect to see, Anheuser-Busch InBev, specifically the Budweiser brand, we're always looking for a Clydesdale commercial. Coca-Cola and Pepsi are all sitting this one out because in many ways, it's a really, really hard time to be a brand. We have such a polarized society. We have so many people showing up with their values and beliefs and wanting to align with brands and brands wanting to align with them, that there's a lot of risk that's been introduced. You can either use this time to make a statement by participating or not make a statement or deflect all of that stuff. And these are brands that are really weighing these decisions very, very heavily. And that really did start, I think, back with the 2016 presidential election.